So with us, even if we do make a mistake, we sin, we do something really stupid, we hurt people, whatever, we still need to know that we can go back to God and find forgiveness, we can find hope, and we can find restoration there. He does discipline us. If you do something wrong, don't think you're just going to be, getting out of it scot-free. He will discipline you. It's not hurting your salvation. You're still secure in God, in heaven. But you will have to pay consequences here on earth for what you do. When you trust in God at that point, you understand God's in control. Even if it leads to your death, there's something better for us waiting afterwards. All right. We are on Psalms. We're back in the Psalms. Again, we're alternating every week. So this week we're on Psalms 3 and 4. And we'll probably end up doing, I got a couple notes here. We'll get back to those, but I'm going to go ahead and just read it. I'll read Psalm 3 and I'll go back and tear it apart. And the same thing with Psalm 4. They're really short, both of them. I do need glasses though. If you're having trouble finding Psalms, it's right in the middle of your Bible. So this is a Psalm of David when he fled from his son Absalom. Lord, how many are my foes? How many rise up against me? Many are saying of me, God will not deliver him. But you, Lord, are a shield around me, my glory, the one who lifts my head high. I call out to the Lord, and he answers me from his holy mountain. I lie down and sleep. I wake again because the Lord sustains me. I will not fear though tens of thousands assail me on every side. Arise, Lord, deliver me, my God. Strike all my enemies on the jaw. Break the teeth of the wicked. From the Lord comes deliverance. May your blessing be on your people. Kind of a short, purgatory psalm. He's really feeling it though. That's one thing about David in the Psalms. You really feel the emotions that he's going through. So it starts off saying it's the Psalm of David when he fled from his son Absalom. This is during Absalom's rebellion. David is known as as probably the greatest king in Israel, aside from Jesus, but the Jewish people would say he was the greatest king over Israel ever. But he had a horrible home life. He liked his girls, and that passed down to his kids.
Solomon had a worse problem with it.
Yeah, Solomon had a problem with it too. All of his kids had a problem with it. But when he got caught in his sin with Bathsheba, where he had Uriah killed, God flat out told him, the sword is never going to leave your house. And we'll see that a little bit later too in the Psalm, that he realizes this is probably coming from God. And a lot of this, the whole rebellion and everything, he's pretty well brought on himself. So Absalom was one of his sons. He had another son by the name of Amnon. And Amnon decided that he liked Absalom's sister, which would be his half-sister, and he raped her. David did nothing about it. So Absalom, a couple years goes by, he decides to take matters in his own hands, and he kills Amnon. It was kind of a righteous thing, but still, it's messed up. Well, David banishes Absalom from the kingdom. Absalom goes out. He ends up gaining some power and authority, gets himself a chariot, some men. You can read all about it in 2 Samuel chapters 15 through 19. Comes back, overthrows his dad. And in that era, if you are overthrowing the king, you cannot let the king live, which means that David's life is in a threat. So David takes his trusted people and he flees the city, runs out into the wilderness. I probably just got off track there. Anyway, this was written while he was out there in the wilderness. So how many are my foes and how many rise up against me? Part of the big tragedy of this rebellion is a lot of people that David trusted and thought they were on his side went over to the side of Absalom. So he realized quickly who was for him and who was against him.
I think that at the same time, even though Absalom was overthrowing him, he still loved him, and that's even worse.
Many are saying of me, God will not deliver him. It doesn't seem like a big deal, but when you really contemplate what's going on there, that's probably the worst thing that you could say to somebody that's in trouble. I think some of your translations will say there's no hope for you in God or something like that. Basically what they're saying, they're not saying that God can't help them, but they're saying God won't. They realize that David's kind of brought this on himself, is what everybody's seeing. And so they figure God's not going to help him, he's just going to let him be punished. And the reason I wrote Shimei up here is there's a reference to that. Actually, let's go ahead and turn there. 2 Samuel 16. Shimei was a relative of King Saul, the first king of Israel. So 2 Samuel chapter 16, verse 5. So David's fleeing the city. He's got a few of his loyal people with him. And as David approached Bahurim, a man from the same clan as Saul's family came out from there. His name was Shimei, son of Gera, and he cursed as he came out. He pelted David and all the king's officials with stones, though all the troops and the special guard were on David's right and left. As he cursed, Shimei said, get out, you murderer, you scoundrel. The Lord has repaid you for all the blood you shed in the household of Saul, in whose place you have reigned. The Lord has given the kingdom into the hands of your son Absalom. You have come to ruin because you are a murderer. Then Abishai, son of Zeruiah, said to the king, why should this dead dog curse my lord the king? Let me go over and cut off his head. But the king said, what does this have to do with you, sons of Zeruiah? If he is cursing because the Lord said to him, curse David, then who can ask, why do you do this? David then said to Abishai and all his officials, my son, my own flesh and blood, is trying to kill me. How much more then this Benjamite? Leave him alone. Let him curse, for the Lord has told him to. It may be that the Lord will look upon my misery and restore to me his covenant blessing instead of his curse today. So David's fully aware that this is like a disciplinary action from God.
Can I read something from the study part?
Yeah, go ahead.
This actually applies to what's happening right now.
Okay.
It says, maintaining your composure in the face of unjustified criticism can be a trying experience and an emotional drain, but if you can't stop criticism, it is best just to ignore it. Remember that God knows what you are enduring, and he will vindicate you if you are in the right.
If you're in the right.
Yeah.
And he'll vindicate the others if you're in the wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But something I want to see here too is even though David knew that he was being punished by God for this act that he had done, he doesn't turn his faith away from God.
Did God leave him?
No.
So
We're going to see this in Psalm 4. We're going to see a little better, I think. But he's relying on God through all this. He knows that his salvation is in God alone. That's the only where he can find it. So with us, even if we do make a mistake, we sin, we do something really stupid, we hurt people, whatever, we still need to know that we can go back to God and find forgiveness, we can find hope, and we can find restoration there.
This has been a huge question in my life for like a year now. How do we live with our mistakes, you know?
She's playing it. I don't know what to do.
I did, yeah.
Try not to repeat them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The best thing,
That's exactly.
yeah. But don't dwell on your mistakes either. It's not.
Well, you know, you have consequences, but I don't know, like, maybe Psalms kind of pulls you out of these hard situations into something more beautiful. So maybe God doesn't leave us to wallow forever.
No, and we're not supposed to. God brings on discipline not because he wants to make us miserable. It's a training. It's just like disciplining your kids. It's to train them to go in the right direction. There's a point when you should be coming out of all that and go, oh, I learned my lesson, and moving away from whatever it was that got you into trouble in the first place.
Right.
That's just awesome.
Uh-huh.
Just awesome.
And so God's not holding you over your head anymore if you've turned away from it. So why are you?
Well, you know, some of us make the same mistake 10 times, 20 times before we get it right.
Yeah,
You know.
happens.
Oh yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Justin, no, you close it out. Never mind. No, I had a quote in there from Charles Spurgeon. And I can't remember the exact words for it, but he was saying that basically, if you took all the trials from heaven, all the temptations from hell, and all the crosses we bear on this earth, crammed them together, pressed them together, the weight of it would not be the same as what these people are saying that God will not deliver him. We should always understand that God will deliver us. We should always have hope that God will deliver us.
But he does discipline us.
Yes, he does discipline us.
Yeah.
If you do something wrong, don't think you're just going to be, getting out of it scot-free. He will discipline you. It's not hurting your salvation. You're still secure in God in heaven. But you will have to pay consequences here on earth for what you do.
Like when you see that time when he first slept with Bathsheba, and God said that he would, strike him down, but then David was very repentant, and then he's like, okay, well, I'll just take your son then.
Yeah.
But
hard to.
when you read more into that, you can tell that David knows he's going to see his son again too.
Yeah.
So,
The one that they're talking about from the affair that David had with Bathsheba, there was a son that was born out of that, but it died. But David knew that he would see his son again at some point. So he was looking to something in the afterlife.
Yeah.
that's why I think all those ladies that have miscarriages or whatever that causes them to lose a baby, you're going to get to heaven, you're going to be a bunch of people who are in your belly. Like, oh, really?
Yeah, so true. I believe that. I got,
Let's keep going here. I would like to get through both of these.
sorry.
No, it's good. It's a good conversation. Verse 3, chapter 3, verse 3, or Psalm 3, verse 3, I should say. These are not chapters, or each one's an individual song. Yeah. But you, Lord, are a shield around me, my glory, the one who lifts my head high. I call out to the Lord, and he answers me from his holy mountain. So he's saying this in response to what these other guys are saying. There's other ones who tell him that God's not going to help you, and he's going, but no, I know you'll help me, Lord. I lie down and sleep. I wake again because the Lord sustains me. So again, David's life's in danger. At this point, one of those guys with him could have been a spy, and he would lay down to sleep and get assassinated. But he's not letting that stress him out. All this stuff's going on. He's like, yeah, I'm going to bed. There was a bishop during the reign of Queen Mary II, Bloody Mary. I can't remember his name. But he was doomed to be executed. And his brother went to him the night before he was going to be executed. He goes, I'll stay the night here with you to comfort you. And the one that was executed goes, nah. He goes, I'm going to go to sleep. I'm going to sleep the best I ever had because God's got this. And so when you trust in God at that point, you understand God's in control. Even if it leads to your death, there's something better for us waiting afterwards. So.
To be absent from the body is to be in the presence of Jesus.
Yep. And something else to be said too about sleep. If you spend a lot of time stressing about stuff and you're not sleeping, it's going to add to your problem. It's just going to be like a downward spiral. You need to get your rest in order to be able to think clearly to help deal with situations.
You guys don't count. You're not getting sick right now.
No, I definitely feel that.
I hate when I'm so stressed and I can't sleep. It's awful.
I remember when Justin was fairly new, and I had gone back to work, and we were living in our fifth wheel, and I just walk into work, my hair's like all fried, I'm carrying a cup of coffee in my hand, I walk into the building, and my boss saw me, he goes, no, just go home. Yeah, it's like, okay. So yeah, he lies down to sleep and wakes again because his Lord sustains me. Verse 6. I will not fear though tens of thousands assail me on every side. Arise, Lord, deliver me, my God. Strike all my enemies on the jaw. Break the teeth of the wicked. It's kind of a vivid picture there. But if you think of a lot of times when we picture scary animals and creatures that got a lot of teeth, they got fangs, what have you. Now, if you're to picture like maybe a Doberman Pinscher that's got no teeth, he's just gonna gum you, he's not that much of a threat, right? So if all of his enemies are toothless, they're not going to hurt him. Verse 8, from the Lord comes deliverance. May your blessing be on your people. Does yours say salvation there?
It does.
Yes.
Salvation belongeth unto the Lord. Thy blessing is upon thy people. Selah.
So what this is referring to, this isn't referring to our spiritual salvation, or we're going to heaven. He's actually looking more to a deliverance from his enemies at this point. It would still be considered salvation in his mind because the Lord's saving him from his enemies. All right, let's move on into Psalm 4. Oh, by the way, when it says, like at the beginning of Psalm 3, a psalm of David when he fled from his son Absalom, and here in Psalm 4, for the director of music with stringed instruments, the Psalm of David, these are not notes that were added by the translators. This is from the original Hebrew.
And there's not going to be a necessary order chronologically for all these people.
No. It's assumed by a lot of people that Psalm 4 goes with Psalm 3, but we have no proof or evidence that it was written anywhere near the same time. But it is another Psalm of David. Verse 1, answer me when I call to you, my righteous God. Give me relief from my distress. Have mercy on me and hear my prayer. How long will you people turn my glory into shame? How long will you love delusions and seek false gods? Know that the Lord has set apart his faithful servant for himself. The Lord hears when I call to him. Tremble and do not sin. When you are on your beds, search your hearts and be silent. Offer the sacrifices of the righteous and trust in the Lord. Many, Lord, are asking, who will bring us prosperity? Let the light of your face shine on us. Fill my heart with joy when their grain and new wine abound. In peace I will lie down and sleep, for you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety.
I love that verse. 4:8's my favorite.
It's a good one. So back to verse 1. I honestly do not like the NIV's translation of this one. Huh?
We're going back to 4:1.
4:1. So the NIV says, answer me when I call to you, my righteous God. Michael, what does it say in the King James?
It says, hear me when I call, O God of my righteousness.
It's a little different from answer. That's
I
why-
definitely like that better. It's like,
I
please
like
just
hear me.
listen.
Yeah, the issue I actually have here, though, is with whether it's his righteous God or the God of his righteousness. Those mean two totally different things to me, and I think NIV is the only one I think that translates it this way. The rest of them say God of my righteousness. And what he's saying is all of his righteousness comes from God.
Oh.
And this was before Jesus, he even knew who Jesus was. You know, this is several hundred years before Jesus was around. And he still knows that all of his righteousness is going to come from God. So give me relief from my distress. Have mercy on me and hear my prayer. And if we're looking at this as being the same time, like I said, he's brought all this stuff on himself. He's asking God for relief in his distress, but he's saying, have mercy on me. He knows that it's his own doing that's brought him to this point. It's kind of like if you get stopped for a speeding ticket. The cop's probably got you on his radar. He's got you dead to rights. And you're going, can you have mercy on me? That's what we got going on here. And it's up to the cop whether or not he's going to let you go or give you a ticket. So he's asking God for mercy in the situation. So how long will you people turn my glory into shame? So he's shifting his thought now from God to his enemies, basically. How long will you love delusions and seek false gods? So it's not about turning his glory into shame. It's like gossiping about him, spreading rumors about him. There was a famous YouTuber Mr. Beast, I think is his name. He went over to like Africa and helped or sponsored the building like 100 wells. It's really good philanthropic thing to do. I can say it. There were a whole bunch of people coming up against him, talking about how it was white privilege and just other garbage. Instead of, supporting it, it's like, hey, it was a great thing you did. And instead, he got all this flack from all these people that probably wouldn't lift a finger to help other people themselves. So how long will you love delusions and seek false gods? It tells us in the New Testament there that God will give people over to their delusions after a certain point. When they're not going to turn back, it's like, okay, you can have your delusion. You can just live in that. Know that the Lord has set apart his faithful servant for himself. The Lord hears when I call to him. I was thinking about this. It's going to sound silly, but I have a frying pan that's set apart.
What?
I have a frying pan that is set apart.
Like, it's used specifically.
It is used specifically for frying eggs.
It's a very special non-stick pan.
Yeah, and if you came to my house, you may or may not see it, because if you like to cook, I'm going to hide it. I had another one before this, and I had some people help me when Vicky was sick, and they just looked at it as another frying pan, and they started cooking it, and they chewed the bottom all up. Yeah, I don't even stick utensils in this pan. I break the egg in there, I flip them, and I dump them on the plate. The pans last for, well, since Vicky was alive, I'm still using the same pan. But he knows exactly what I'm talking about. I see it like laying in the sink with the dish on top of it. It's like, so this.
I mean, that's the very reason that I decided to switch to cast iron skillets, because I'm like, I'm done worrying about whether or not someone's going to scratch up my pan.
Yeah. And we have cast iron for all the rest of the stuff. And I love cast iron. But when it comes to cooking my eggs, there's something about that frying pan. You know what I'm getting at here with this. It's set apart from. So God's taken David and he set him apart from everyone else for a purpose. And even though David's messed things up, he still is a man after God's heart. Because every time he messes up, he cries out to God for forgiveness or whatever. He repents and keeps moving on. He doesn't just keep going in his the sin that he's in or whatever.
So also, it seems to me that God is staying with him through the punishment. He's
Yeah.
not just taking his hands up and saying, you're going to deal with it.
Right.
He knows that David is going to go through his consequences, but I think that he stays with David and tries to help him through the consequences, I think.
He's definitely there. At least David feels he's there because he's talking to him. He's crying out to him.
That's good.
I definitely believe that even in their darkest moments, God's still there, whether you can feel him, see him, or whatever.
Yeah. There are places where it says God will hide himself, but it doesn't. He's there. He's just, you may not be able to feel his presence.
He's especially there if you memorize scripture.
Yeah. Or, when you're going through something, you start singing praises, and that draws you closer to him. Psalms 4:4. Tremble and do not sin. When you are on your beds, search your hearts and be silent. Again, Charles Spurgeon, he goes, how many people have reversed this now, and they sin without trembling? But he's saying, tremble and do not sin. So,
It's kind of like have the fear of the Lord.
right, that's exactly what it's talking about, have the fear of the Lord. No.
It says stand in awe and sin not.
Yeah.
I see no trembling, but
Really?
it says stand in awe and sin not, commune with your own heart upon your bed and be still.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I thought Spurgeon used
But
to.
I know it does use tremble in other places, and like, oh.
Yeah. Now, the second part of that verse there, where it says, when you're on your beds, search your hearts and be silent. This is about talk about being like in a private place. Most of our houses, our bedrooms are a private place. We don't just let our company go wandering in there, right? When the company shows up, in fact, we take the stuff that's out there and we just chuck it in the bedroom and close the door so no one looks at it. So, yeah, I know you. No, no, I do the same thing. So he's talking about going to God in the private place. When on your beds, search your hearts and be silent. And he's speaking this to his enemies, these ones that are coming against him right now. So offer the sacrifices of the righteous and trust in the Lord. Many, Lord, are asking, who will bring us prosperity? Let the light of your face shine on us. So he's talking to God. He switched his focus now from his enemies back to God. Verse 7, fill my heart with joy, and their grain and new wine abound. When their grain and new wine abound.
Why do we have to wait till the new wine abounds for the joy?
There's actually, hang on, hold that thought. Can you, Laura, read that in yours, please?
Yeah. Thou hast put gladness in my heart more than in the time that their corn and their wine increased.
That's
Oh
a
my
better
goodness.
translation.
That's a totally different thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of places where the NIV went south on this one. But what he's talking about, he's not talking about, everybody's getting drunk and that's how much joy he has. He's talking about the harvest. When they have a harvest that's just bountiful and plenty, everybody's happy and rejoicing because they know they're good for the next year.
Or at least
And-
through the winter.
And that's the peace and the joy that he has in this situation.
Oh, wonderful.
Even though all his enemies are against him, he still has that same joy and peace that everybody else experiences when things are going good. And then verse 8, the last verse of the psalm, in peace I will lie down and sleep, for you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety. Again, his sleep is not troubled. He's going to be able to go just lay down and sleep peacefully and come back.
Wow.
I like that too.
And so he's getting this even though he put himself in that position?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
God's bringing this on him, but it's because of his own actions.
Yeah.
This was because he allowed his stepson to rape his daughter? Is that what they're talking about?
I think it goes back farther than that, but that's where things start having problems with Absalom. All right, you have any other questions on the Psalms?
No, but I really needed this today.
That was a good one.
I've been
The Psalms
thinking
are
about this
wonderful.
for a long time.
What is Selah? What is that?
That is a very good question. Nobody knows.
I heard it means at this point, stop and think about what you just read before you keep reading.
That's a possible meaning. Stop and reflect. Another possible meaning is to lift up, raise your hands, look to heaven.
Oh, Selah.
And another possible meaning is it's just like a pause in the song, or a musical term that's been lost to history. We don't know. It's an original Hebrew word that we just had no idea what the meaning is.
In this book, it's just about at the end of every verse.
Yeah.
It's
You'll see that word through the Psalms a lot. So.